Kieran. What's application archiving, and why do I need it?
That's a great question, Vince. Application archiving is a solution provided by the Lemongrass Cloud Platform that allows companies to store their SAP systems in a kind of state of hibernation. Basically, what that means is that they're switched off until they're actually needed. The main advantage of this is that the cost to the customer is kept to an absolute minimum, while still maintaining easy access to the system when it's required. Rather than other solutions that perhaps would require retraining or for staff to have to learn new ways of interacting with their data, application archiving allows the customer and its users to continue to interact with the SAP systems just as they did before. The only difference is that they first need to start the system, which takes anywhere between a couple of minutes and for very, very large systems maybe up to 7 or 8 minutes, before they can log on. The configuration provided by Lemongrass using the application archiving solution within the Lemongrass Cloud Platform is all done for the customer, meaning the business user doesn't need to understand any of the technical detail required to launch and maintain a fully working SAP application server. What we're looking at here is the user's view of the application archiving screen. It simply shows a list of systems with configurable names. This is a demo set, so in this example we're simply listing the system IDs. Most people would know these from their SAP experience. We have meaningful and searchable descriptions, so even in customers that have perhaps hundreds of servers in the state of application archiving, they're still easy to find. You can see who the owner of the system is, including their contact details. So for example, if you were unable to get the system to start or there was something wrong, you would be able to contact the business owner within the customer directly. And you can see instantly what the status of the system currently is. So in this example, we can see that this ECC development dev system currently under archive status is in fact running. That would mean that I could log on to that just in the normal way using my SAP GUI. If, however, I realised that I needed to start the QA7 system, I would simply have to press the Start button. What this does is trigger a whole load of pre-configured events inside the Lemongrass Cloud Platform that will actually begin the process of launching this server. This can be as complicated as a domain controller, a web gateway, and all manner of other things that are required to maintain a fully running SAP system, or it could be as simple as a single server start. The point is that the complexity of that is completely hidden behind these very simple screens. At any time, the user is able to click on the Help button, which will raise a support ticket to the application archiving support team. All of the details of what that ticket is about are automatically entered. For example, which server, which account, what's really going on behind the scenes. So again, there is no additional complexity for the user. Once the user has finished logging in, doing whatever it is they need to do to that archived system, one of two things can happen. The first is the user can simply choose to stop the system in exactly the same way as you could if you were watching a DVD. Or, if the system is set up for scheduling, which is what we would recommend, there will be a fixed schedule at which the system will definitely be switched back off. So for example, if this system was running in the UK, we might have a stop schedule of 6 p.m, meaning even if the user started the system, used it for 10 minutes and walked away, left it, what would actually happen is at 6 o'clock, the Lemongrass Cloud Platform would automatically and safely switch that server back off. The system's also clever enough to understand interdependencies. So for example, if we had a completely built system, and let's just have a look at what we've actually got here. By clicking into it, what we can actually see, if you have the right permissions and the customer has decided that this is what they want, you can actually see all of the individual components that make up this running SAP application server. In this example, the domain controller, the SAP router, and the application server itself. You can see that they're all running, and you can see that there is a prescribed orchestrated sequence of starting and stopping. What this allows us to do is to create dependencies between common components. So the Lemongrass Cloud Platform understands the notion of multiple application servers sat behind a single SAP router instance, as an example. This is equally applicable for things like shared database servers or clusters, shared file system servers, transport routes, and all of the other richness that the SAP application stack requires. The Lemongrass Cloud Platform, correctly configured, is able to hide all of that complexity away from the end user, meaning all they have to do is simply start the collection, wait a few minutes, and the platform will take care of the rest. If, for example, two application servers were dependent on a common SAP router, the platform will completely take care of the fact that when one of those stacks is switched off or put into its stopped hibernated state, the lowest cost state that it can operate under, it won't disconnect active users on a different application server from those common resources. So the whole time the platform is working with the user to minimize cost, whilst also maintain the level of service that other users within the customer would require. This is all automatic. There's no thought required. There is one final thing to think about on top of the advantages that we've already mentioned, and as a quick recap, that is, users don't need to be retrained. They can continue to use their SAP systems in just the way that they're used to. It maintains the lowest possible cost because you're only being charged for running systems when they're actually running. And the rest of the time, there is a much lower cost because you're paying for the system in its hibernated state. If, for example, it became required to run some high performance or high load reporting, it would be possible to increase the size of those servers temporarily. This would be a special request to the cloud platform administrators, but it is nevertheless possible and will take, in most cases, simply a few hours to achieve. That would allow a customer to query large SAP systems only occasionally when they really need to, and again, therefore keep the cost to a minimum. And the final advantage is, we hear all the time about customers that have gone through problems with ransomware attacks or some other kind of virus or intrusion. The best and most secure way of limiting your exposure to those types of events is to simply not have the systems running. There's no ransomware attack in the world or virus that can penetrate a system that's not actually there. So one of the other advantages of thinking about keeping your applications in this semi-permanent archive state is to not actually have them running on the cloud until you really need it. So all of those things together, ease of use, lower cost, better security, we think makes the Lemongrass Cloud Platform application archiving solution for SAP a valuable and exciting proposition. I hope that helps, Vince. Until next time.